G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Yeah, we're looking at 20 past midnight and the place is a bit of a mess. I've just finished putting out 4,000 litres and the floodlights are running on the tower of light and shower. I'm still in my headdress and I'm about to go down and put the pump to bed for the night. Part of that job is to refuel it. And of course when I get back from refueling the generator, the pump, I got this marvellous fun job of rolling up the hoses. But there's something down here that I think's pretty funny, to the point where I'm going to share it with you. You won't get to see much in the dark. That's the telephoto LED light on top of my hat. And that is the hand torch. Here we go. We come up on the front gate. And a little solar light. I'll save you the burden of following the pipeline with me in the dark, because I just remembered I have some unfinished business up here, which involves leaving this hooked up on a fence with the valve open and the cap off, and grabbing a hold of this little soft-ended hose, short link thereof. Once again, off we go as I resume the journey back through the paddock of cow poop. Not that I'm complaining about the cow poop in my neighbour's paddock, because if he didn't have the cows, then he wouldn't have set the water tanks up and the bore. Without the cows, he wouldn't have spare water to sell to the hillbilly on top of the hill, living in the dead forest, or dying forest. And here's a funny thing. Look at this remarkable enclosure that he's put around the whole system. Here's what I wanted to show you. There's an actual redback. A genuine fair dinkum redback. And these leaves are actually hovering on the top of the web to provide a bit of shade in the middle of the day. Here's another little tiny one. Whether that's a male or another female. But the point is, it would be a very, very brave water thief who would come and ply their trade here. There's another web there. There's no spider web on the valve and outlet that I use, although we do have a pretty fair sort of a centipede. And over here, yet another redback just caught itself a beetle, and that lives on the delivery line. What I do have protecting the pump from potential thieves with a little male in the web there, and there we go. That's the lady who lives under the pump cover. Isn't that cute? That's what happens to people who go thieving water and pumps in Australia. If I didn't show you this stuff, you'd think I was bullshitting, because there's a lot of bullshit in the world. But anyway, there you go. Redbacks at the solar artesian bore tanks. Warples on a lot to YouTube. I got to get on with this. And there's a strange and interesting rule of the universe that says that it takes about 3 times longer to do anything when you're videoing it. And because you're concentrating on the video, you're not concentrating on what you're doing, and that's why you have to go back up the hill. So will I end this video now or not? Probably not, because there are some other interesting things to go on here. First kind of interesting thing is that after having been caught and pinned in the spotlight, the redback on this side, the west side of the pump, the valve is gone, but not so the one on the east side. Kind of interesting that the big one has gone into hiding, probably underneath the valve handle. So when you stick your fingers in there, bang. And the beetle snatcher is pretty busy. Wrapping up the prize. Okay, so here's the thing, that line at the moment is full of water. And water in poly pipe in the sun, yeah, it'll get sort of half baked. And I don't know what bacteria there might be in the bore, in the line, yada, yada, yada. I'd just rather not have that cooked water. So I dewater the line, part of my little ritual. Hence, this little short length of hose. Out here onto the grassy area, or it will be after repeated waterings, just below the fenced off pump station and the water tanks. So I don't know how much of this will show up, but I'm about to turn that valve on with the hand that's holding the camera. And yeah, there's a couple of meters worth of fall. Between the top of the pipe and down here, hence the need for a pump. And so as not to cause erosion, I just spray it out gently with my thumb. There's not enough pressure to use the nozzle. And as the pressure goes out of the line, it goes less and less distance. So it only takes 2 hours to put out 4,000 litres of water, but it takes a bit of extra time to put the pump to bed. Dewater the line. Roll up the hoses. Pretty close to a 4-hour exercise. From go to woe, to be honest. But as Margaret Thatcher used to say, Tina, there is no alternative. It sort of shows the demarcation between the wet and the dry. Only goes a few metres out, but better than nothing. And then the suction line gets dewatered. A much more low-key performance. motion lotion, gasoline. And there be no way that I can operate this thing while holding a camera, so you'll just have to wait. There you go. Refilled. Yeah, best part of a litre left in there. And there was 3, so yeah, 2 litres to shift 4,000 litres of water. So now we have the interesting bit. The pump is back in its stowage spot. Now the pump cover has to go back on without annoying Mrs. Redback and her 2 nests. And over there, that might be the male, I don't know. Maybe not. Something down there, but anyway, yeah. The idea is not to disturb their webs, because that would be rude. And there's another little fella in there. Maybe a competitive male. Anyway. Yeah, run away, run away, run away. And once again, there is no way I can hold the camera while putting that on top of that. So you'll just have to sit on pause. And there, look at that. It worked, and I didn't die, because redbacks are fairly predictable and well-mannered, actually, as spiders go. Now, we tie the cover in place, which, yes, does involve getting a little bit close to the spiders, sort of thing. But, you know, it has to be done. And that way you use the weight of the generator, of the water pump. I don't know why I keep saying generator. I suppose it's because I'm used to having generators to play with. And that just sort of ties on there. And all you have to do is remember that there's a spider living over there. Not to annoy him. And up over there is where the big lady lives. You don't annoy her either. Yeah, cool, isn't it? Living with the wildlife rather than try to exterminate it just because it's there. I know it's not the way everybody looks at it, but it sort of seems to make sense to me. So, some people have burglar alarms, other people pay security guards. I just leave the redbacks to get on with it. They live here, I live here. They know I'm harmless, and I know they live here. Works fine. So, who the hell needs locks? On with the show, and off we go. Off towards the light on the hill. And of course, the secret to this game is timed pump runs. So I can get around 1,000 square metres centred on the tower with the Toro monsoon, as well as half the circle surrounding the outer edge of the Toro's circumference. I have 11 watering stations, and when I'm putting out a 4,000 litre load, I do 6. Well, I have been doing 6 11-minute waterings with 40 litres a minute, but I keep finding that I've only put out 3,750 at the end of the night. The Toro monsoon up there on top, it runs at 50 litres a minute, and it takes the pump's output while I'm changing the hoses. from one watering station. Can you see anything there? Anything at all? Maybe? How about that? To the next watering station. And these things throw water about 15 metres with surety, and I put them on 20 metre centres. So they get really good overlap coverage around the outside of the circular footprint watered down by the Toro monsoon. Works out that you get 1.4 millimetres over the whole half a horseshoe plus the central circle. The horseshoe out here, because I do half of it sort of every second night in a week, one end of it gets 1.4 millimetres, the other end gets 2.8 millimetres. Next week they swap ends. The central circle, it gets 4.2 millimetres, is it? 3 lots of 1.4. And that is how the system works. So, not as silly as it looks, eh? There you go, see, I told you everything takes longer when you video it. Let's hope my coffee isn't cold. It wasn't that hot, actually. Might have to drink the rest of it in one go. This whole operation runs on quite a lot of coffee, to be honest. So, you get to sit on pause while I get to go and collect the hoses. And out the hoses. Ready to be rolled up. 1:32 AM. Okay, so this is really high tech. Hoses loose rolled. So to get it lined up before I take the slack out of it, put it on a hard surface and bash it. Then rotate it 90 degrees, get the lumpy bits on top of the hardwood, and yeah, you guessed it, bash it again. And then flip it and bash it from the other side. And turn it and bash it again. And what you wind up with, whoopsie, is a better aligned, if loose coiled hose. So now, and this is another one I can't show you with a handheld camera, I'm going to put my hand, the heel of my hand on the center of the hose, while I'm going to pull on these two ends, and I will dramatically tighten it after I've now aligned it. At least that's the theory. There you go, and now it is a tight rolled hose which can be put on the bottom shelf to dry out. And yeah, I've just got to do that another couple of times, or 1.5 times, because there's a 30 metre hose and there's a 12.5 metre hose yet to be rolled up. Yeah, maybe 10 minutes per hose to roll them if you got them laid out properly. And for some reason I always leave the shortest one for last. Yeah, okay, so about 8 minutes to 2, and all 3 hoses are rolled, pump's been refueled and put to bed. It's now time to off the lights. Hear the generator rising note. This little exhaust gas fan. Two 2,500 hours this generator's run. Uh, 19th of March 2013 I built the hutch. So yeah, 7 minutes to 2, generator off. Hutch closed. And now I can go and have a cup of hot chocolate and go to bed. And that's what's involved in putting 1.4 millimeters, pretty near precisely, onto 3/4 of an acre, or almost 0.3 of a hectare. All in order to keep my palatial mansion safe from the threat of the bushfires. And that is the 7th lot of 4,000 litres I've put out in December. Another 4,000 litres went into the dam. So that's my response to the bushfire crisis. $28,000 litres in 1 month, sprinkled on a 1.5 acres, 0.56 of a hectare, of the 32,000 that I've purchased this month. And I'm paying $50 for 12 tonnes of water once a week. Unless it rains, in which case I just wait until it gets dry again. And now I'm going to listen to the news on my new radio. I shouted myself another one. Last one I blew up about 3 or 5 years ago, so we'll see how long this one lasts. Baubles on like the YouTube. Ciao.